Okay, so now let's talk about what makes something a news. In the last video, we talked about what is news. We understood the fact that if I forgot to describe, I'm describing it again. A news is something which basically a news should be like an individual. If an individual is reading a news from an individual perspective, it should be sleek and concise. It should not be elongated. It should be such a manner that the reader gets the information as early as possible without moving. That is the reason why we give a headline so that the viewer knows what the viewer is about to read, and also the fact being that it does not waste a viewer's time too much, because you need to understand the fact that in a newspaper there are multiple amount of news, and to understand every single one of them is not possible. So the more elongated you make a news unnecessarily, which there is nothing a reason for, you have to understand the fact that it is taking up the time which the viewer can spend on reading an important news. The broader the headline, that is the reason why there are H1, H2, H3, and H4 headlines made. H1 headlines are like the widest and the broadest headlines. For example, if you are reading this paper, there is the broadest headline, while if you would read something here, the headline is not that broad. Okay, so that defines like how much important the news is. For example, share of vote, financial minister keeps account simple. That is a very important news because it's about the voting rights of the people. But at the same time, if something is like boost of Lakshadweep 600 crores for Maldives, Maldives is not a country which is important for us, even though because of the India Maldives conflict, it had been on the first page because people are interested to know about it, but it is not more important than financial minister releases the budget for the interim budget for a few months. Okay, which is more important for the people of the country because that is the country which we are living in. So, okay, too much of talks. So, when we are talking about the news, there are few things that makes a news. First is timeliness. Second is not clarity, conflict. Third is maybe, what is the third point? Third can be like the proximity. Fourth is the dimension. And fifth can be environment. Sixth can be the intensity. Environment can go below intensity. The environment. Can there be more? Yeah, there can be various more if we are talking about something like that. There can be prominence. There can be prominence, yeah. I think 7 points would be more than enough if you're studying journalism. I mean, these five are the most important. Wait. These five are the most important, whereas these two are like works. But this is the most important one. What is timeliness? Timeliness basically tells the fact that if there is a news, the more faster you provide the news, the more important it is. For example, I cover something which happened just a few minutes ago. Okay, for example, there was an attempt to suicide in the Jatindas Park Metro, which did not occur though. The person was rescued, I guess. I don't really know. So I instantly started searching about it, and I did found only two newspapers who made the news about it. They had very few information, but they had the accurate information. They knew about the time, they knew about the date, they knew about the person, not exactly who the person was, but at least they had the gender identity, which was that she was a female. She was 30 to 40 years old. She was like mid-aged women, and that is the thing. It's about the timeliness. If you can provide an information in the correct time, then it's very, very important. Okay, there goes the timeliness. Then is the conflict. You have to understand that conflict is always a news. Why? It's because we as human beings, we love conflict. We love when a conflict comes into news. Israel Palestine, Russia Ukraine, when India Pak or India US, anything. International relations are conflicts between two nations without even having a bloodshed war, or basically Russia, US, or whatever is happening with the India and Kim Jong Un, or anyone. Whenever there is a conflict, it would come on the page. There's a fun quote when I was reading about journalism which said, if a dog bites a man, it would not be a news. But if a man bites a dog, that would be a news. It's basically the fact that how odd the news is makes it on the front page. Another thing is proximity. A local news would be more popular than a national, than an international. Depends on the intensity. How intense the news is. If the intense news is from international, like if there are millions of people dying in US, it would come on the front page. But if the international news are not that accurate, but something is going on in the country which is more important, it would come on the proximity page and it would be front for the news. Okay, there is a dimension. How much is affected, or basically how many people are getting affected. That comes under the thing of dimension. Okay, dimension, like if there are 500 people dying, that's a very big dimension. 500 people are a lot dying, whereas 2 to 3 people die every day. It happens. I mean, it's not something I like, but I think that is very natural. Few deaths is very natural, but an incident causing a death of 500 people, 5,000 people, or like Israel Palestine thing happening, or the Russia Ukraine, like many people dying, then it comes to the front page no matter what. Then it is the intensity, how intensely the thing is happening, or it comes to the factor of like intensity plays a very big role. Okay, there is the prominence. The thing happening to the thing happening, is the person a prominent person? For example, if something is happening to the prime minister, or if something is happening to the chief minister, that comes under the prominence. The more prominent the leader is, or the prominent the person is, it comes under the news. And last but not least, the environment. The environment will always come under news. If the weather is too hot or the weather is too cold, if it suddenly rained in the Sahara Desert, anything, oddity, some things you have to keep in mind which surely comes into news is that if someone very, very disabled does something, or if someone does something very odd, they will surely and always come under news. And this is about the news factor.